Okay, so the most important panel, the page panel, there are layers. Here's my links panel. We learned about the links panel today in Illustrator. So now you should be familiar. The links panel is far more important in InDesign than it is in Illustrator, and there's more features in it. Here's my stroke panel. So it allows me to modify the weight of my line and the color of the line. You are familiar with this feature. Here are the color swatches. Oh, look at the color swatches. Is it as robust as Illustrator's? You'll notice that there's not the same number of colors, and we'll have a conversation about why that is. Gradient, effects, and things called object, paragraph, and character styles. So these are all topics and features that I discuss in my graphic design sequence of courses. But I only have 2 days left with you, today and our next class. I can't get too in-depth in this software in this particular class. Remember, it's an introduction. If you are curious about this software and you would like to learn more, take more classes with me, okay? I go over it very thoroughly, and we make really beautiful, complicated documents, okay? So I think I do a pretty good job in these other courses where we learn this particular software. So we have panels on the right, we have our workspace in the center, we have our toolbar on the left, and then this is our control bar. This is our control bar. Now, in Illustrator, the control bar would change depending on the feature that you were working with. So it was very tool specific. Photoshop, when you look at the control bar there, is extremely tool specific. In InDesign, we really only have 2 control bars. InDesign only has 2 control bars. So let me show you, watch. If I am in the Move tool, this is what the control bar looks like. If I go to Shape, Frame, Shape, Pen, Pencil, Line, Scale, it doesn't change. It doesn't change. It's always the same control bar. This first control bar is concerned with the position of your content. That's all it is. It's a transformation feature. It's concerned with the size and the position of your content. If it's rotated, if it's askew, where it sits in X and Y, that's basically what it's concerned with, orientation. Now the next control bar, it has 2 control bars. The next control bar that InDesign has will be activated if I click on the Type tool. So if I click on the Type tool, you'll notice it did change. So the second control bar is concerned with typography. So InDesign is very text heavy. It's very text oriented. So when I click on the Type tool, it's going to change the iconography up there. Now, the Type panel actually has 2 ways that it can be displayed. You'll notice that there's an A icon, and that's pressed. This orientation is concerned with what's called character formatting, the way that the letter is being used, or the font that's being used. Okay, so it's concerned with the specific word and the font that's being used. And then when I click on this little icon, it looks like a backwards P. Do you see that little backwards P? This is called a pilcrow. And a pilcrow indicates the completion of a paragraph. So it's an invisible symbol. It's called a hidden character. But if I click on this pilcrow, you'll notice that the icons change. What's really happening here, though, is that if I click on the A and the pilcrow, it's just swapping out the position of the control bar. So you'll notice that when I go to the pilcrow, I still have character formatting to the right. When I go to the character format, it places the emphasis and focus on the font formatting over here. So it just slides it around. That's all it does. Yes?
What happens when you track changes and then you see that tracking changes on a document and you see that?
This doesn't have track. I don't think InDesign has that. That's a Word feature.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it the same symbol, but it's...
Yes, it is the same symbol. So Word is basic. There's a lot of features here in InDesign that are similar in Word, but Word is really difficult to manage. It just doesn't have the flexibility. I'm going to go on a little tangent for a second. So I get clients every once in a while that request that I produce template like information for them in Word. And I was having a conversation with Diego about this recently. That is a very scary thing to be working with because it doesn't respond. Word never really responds the way that you think it is. And it's just extremely problematic. If a client approaches me with that request, I try to convince them not to do it. Or if they are really persistent, I'm going to charge them an extremely large amount of money to do it because it is such a nightmare from a design point of view to get Word to behave the way that you want to. So yes, it's similar to Word, but I just want you to know that they are not the same thing at all, okay? So back on to my topic, the control bar is the same for character formatting and paragraph formatting. Now, the last thing that I want to look at before we go to another break is that we have menus, very similar to Illustrator. So we have a help menu. We have a window menu. This is where our panels would be. Does InDesign have as many panels as Illustrator? Not even close. And it's pretty straightforward. The most important panels, layers, color, object, and layout. These are pretty much it. Text wrap's pretty important. That's about it. View are visual aids. Is there as many visual aids in here? Nope. It's not. There's not as much. Now, what is unique to InDesign is that it does have a table feature, a table construction feature, which is actually very flexible, but complicated. So I don't normally go over it in class unless somebody specifically requests it, and not in this class for certain, but usually in my advanced classes. The object menu allows you to organize any objects that you've placed. Here's the type menu, which is redundant with this control bar. We have a layout menu that allows me to modify my margins, my columns. I can move to the first page, to the next page, sort of where I find myself within my document. The edit menu has undo, copy, paste, paste in place, which is really nice. Spelling, dynamic spelling, which is great, especially for me since I'm a horrible speller. Find and change, stuff like that. And then file has copy, save. It has package. Remember we talked about packaging today? So there it is, package again. Print and exporting features such as exporting to PDF, so on and so forth, and place. So InDesign is relatively similar to Illustrator. And as I mentioned, it's simplified compared to Illustrator. It is really designed to work with the information efficiently.